Hello everybody, thank you for checking out this video, and if you could please like and subscribe to this channel, it would enable me to make more videos for your entertainment, enjoyment, and education. So this video today, we're going to be talking about C major triads. Triads are very important, and you can use them in very many aspects of guitar playing. So whether it's any genre, rock, country, blues, whatever it is, it's always good to know your triads on the guitar. So if we're playing a 1, 4, 6, 5 progression, the 4 chords that are in that progression, so say we're in C major, the 1 chord is C major, 4 chord is F major, the 6 chord is A minor, and then the 5 chord is G major. So I have here the 1 chord, which is C. Now the triad for each of these chords is the root, 3rd, and 5th. So the root in C major is C, the 3rd of the chord is E, and the 5th of the chord is G. So if you're playing a C major chord, on the 5th string with your 3rd finger you have a C. On the 4th string with your 2nd finger on the D string you have an E. Then on the 3rd string open you have a G. And then your 1st finger is on the 2nd string 1st fret, which is another C, and then you have the open E, the 1st string open. So the triad is there, but we're actually doubling up a couple of the notes. So every single chord that you play consists of what's called a triad. So the triad is within that chord, and of course we're doubling up a couple of notes. Now in the F chord, the 4 chord in the key of C major, so say you play your F chord in regular position here. So under your 3rd finger on the 3rd fret, 4th string, by the way I should mention that the triad for F major is F, A, C. The root is F, the 3rd is A, and the 5th of the chord is C. So under your 3rd finger, you have the F on the 4th string. Under your 2nd finger on the 3rd string, on the G string, you have the A, which is the 3rd of the chord. Then under your 1st finger on the 2nd string, on the B string, you have a C. And then on the 1st string, 1st fret, you have another F. So you have 2 Fs, you're doubling up the F. But in essence, you have that triad, F, A, C. Okay? Now in the 6th chord, our A minor is the 6th chord in the key of C major. So the root is A, the 3rd is C, and then the 5th of the chord is E. So say we have a regular A minor chord here in open position. So the 5th string open, that's your root, that's your A. And then actually the 2nd finger on the 4th string, on the D string, is your E. So that's the 5th of the chord. Then under your 3rd finger on the 3rd string, the G string, we have another A. Then your 1st finger on the 2nd string, the B string, we have a C. And then the 1st string open is an E. So we have our triad, which is the open 5th string, the C on the 2nd string, and then the 2nd finger on the 4th string is your E. So there's your triad. And then what you want to do is just acknowledge that that triad is there, even though you're doubling up a couple of notes and you're strumming. So that's what makes up a chord, is the triad. And every single chord, again, consists of a triad. So we're going to go to the last chord of this progression. And what a progression is a series of chords in order. And this is how songs are made. And we'll get into all that kind of, what progressions and why they kind of are accumulated in a certain way. So the 5 chord in C major is G. That's your 5 chord in the key of C major. Okay? So now the triad for C major, the root is G, the 3rd of the chord is B, and the 5th of the chord is D. So if you're playing a regular G chord, so the root is on the 6th string, 3rd fret with your 2nd finger. Then your 1st finger is on the 5th string, 2nd fret. That's your 3rd of the chord, which is a B. Then you have the 4th string open, which is your D. Then your 3rd string open, which is a G. Then you're doubling up the root. Then the 2nd string with your 3rd finger, you have a D. Or you can play the open B, either way. I like to do the 3rd fret. And then you have another G on the high E string. So you actually have 3 Gs when you're playing a G major chord. Okay? So again, essential to understand that these notes are contained in each of these chords, which is called the triad, the root, 3rd, and 5th. Now, why does this matter? Many many reasons. You can use this for improvisation. You can use this for coloring up a chord if someone's just doing a strumming. You can give it a little bit of texture. And the thing is, when we're kind of understanding the fretboard, this enables us to kind of explore and use some of these triads in various different areas of the neck. So then again, when we're improvising or understanding a fretboard, we can utilize it to our full potential. And I wish I knew this years and years ago when I first started, because it would, when I did discover this, it really opened a lot of doors. And improvisation is a very, very cool thing, because it allows you to be as creative as you want. So there's a lot of ways to kind of figure out these triads in various different ways of the fretboard. One way is, say you want a C triad, right? And so on the first 3 strings, you're going to have 3 different shapes of that one triad. So say you want to have a C major shape. So when you want the C shape on the first 3 strings, you have your first fret on the first string, 3rd fret, first finger on the 5th fret, or sorry, pinky on the 5th fret, 2nd string, and then 3rd finger on the 3rd string. And that's your C major triad. And you're going to have that triad on the first 3 strings in 3 different areas, because we have 3 different notes. So there's your C major there on the 3rd fret. Then your next position is going to be actually barring the 8th fret of the first 2 strings. So you got the 8th fret for high E string, 8th fret on the B string, and then 9th fret on the G string. That's your triad right there. And you have the root, the 5th, and then the 3rd. Now the last one is going to be up on the 12th fret, and it looks like a D major chord, but up on the 12th fret. So you have the 12th fret high E string, you have the 13th fret of the B string, and then you have the 12th fret of the G string. So on the high E string, you have your 3rd of the chord, which is your E. On the 2nd string, you have your B, and then of the 3rd string, the G string, you have your 5th of the chord, which is the G. Now, within each of these triads, the important thing about these is to know where the root is of each of these triads. So you can explore different areas of the fretboard with the same chord. So that's one of the things, is to explore the fretboard with some of these triads, so you can play them in various different ways. And as long as you know where the root is, then you don't really have to think too much at that point to explore some of these triads. So say you want to play an F. Say you want to play an F triad, right? So you just take this same shape that you had kind of down on the 8th fret with the C, and as long as you know that that first string is where your root is, wherever you find that F, which is on the 1st fret, you just form that same shape. So you just bar the first 2 strings. You got the root, the 5th, the 5th, and the 3rd on the 3rd string, and then that's your triad. Then you take the same idea as we did with the C chord, and then you play that next triad, which looks like a D major chord, on the 5th fret, and your root's on the 2nd string. And then now you play your next triad, which we did the same thing on the 3rd fret with the C, but now this one's going to be on the 8th fret. So you have the 8th fret, the 10th fret, and the 10th fret. So 8th fret, 1st string, 10th fret, 2nd string, 10th fret, 3rd string, and that's your G. So the thing is, the root for this one here is actually on the 3rd string. So that's your F. So as long as you know where that is, wherever you place that, and you know the notes along the fretboard, you can use, so that's your F. And then of course you just move that up 2 frets and you have a G. So that's as simple as that as well, these shapes, so F, move it up 2 frets, and you have your G. So this is kind of one idea where you can explore this, and we'll do one other of these because we're talking about the 1, 4, 6, 5. So now we're going to do the first 3 strings with the A minor. So with the A minor, you're going to bar the first 3 strings on the 5th fret, and that's going to be your A on the high E string, which is the root of the chord. The 5th of the chord is on the 2nd string, which is your E, and on the 3rd string you have your 3rd of the chord, and that's your A minor. Then the next sort of triad or inversion, if you want to call it, is up on the 8th fret. So first finger on the high E string, 8th fret, third finger on the 10th fret of the B string, and then your second finger is on the 9th fret of the G string. And that's your third on the high E string, your fifth, your root, and then your fifth on the third string. And then you have one more, which is the exact same as just playing that A minor shape down on the first fret, but then you're going to play it up on the 13th fret there. Okay, so say someone's playing, you know, like a strumming pattern in C major, so one chord, then you go to your 4 chord, then your 6 chord, A minor, and then your 5 chord, G. Well, you can kind of dress that up a little bit, so you can play the, and then you can go to your, and just play those triads over top of that. When someone's kind of strumming that, then you can do, and of course you got many different areas of the fretboard to have these triads. And of course you can explore with mixing in your pentatonic scales with some of these triads as well. Like say you have a C chord here, and we can sort of talk about the cage system a little bit. So if you understand the cage system, the A position shape here is on the 5th fret of the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th string for your C major chord. And you can kind of stroll into that with a little slide from the root, slide up to the 3rd with your E, and then play the first, the next 3 strings, the 4th, 3rd, and 2nd string with your first finger. So, right? And then for the F, you can have this triad over here, and you go. Okay, and then for the A minor, you can do. And then for the G, you go. And then back to your C. So essential things to know about learning your triads, making sure. The essential part of getting to know the fretboard is, of course, learning all your notes along the fretboard and trying to find different ways that you can explore some of these triads, because they can be invaluable to your playing for improvisation. And say, again, you're playing with another guitar player or any other instrument, and you want to sort of dress up the sound of the progression. So there's a little explanation of triads, and I hope you enjoyed that, you got something out of it, and we'll see you next time. Thank you for liking and sharing this YouTube channel.